I've gone out and I've bought a new light. Now, this is a rarity for me. I also bought it brand new, which you know my opinion on that, but I've bought a new light, and what I want to go through with you all is the rationale for buying it and how I test it when it arrives. Now, these are some initial tests. Obviously, we'll be testing this for weeks and weeks before we make the decision as to whether it stays or not. But first of all, let's talk about what we've bought. And it's this, it's not the actual head, it's the modifier. Now, this probably looks pretty straightforward. It's like a barn door sort of jobby, but there's some extra special bits within it. Let me just angle it up more to camera for you. There we go. So, yes, we've got some barn doors. We also have a nice black square behind it. So there's no silver, there's no reflector, it's black. And you'll know from my other video, the little hack we used to do, this is kind of a better version of that. It's flat and it's black. We've got these as well, so we can really turn it into like a proper box. It'll really deaden the light is what I'm hoping for here. Remove all specularity and make it hard. Now, Rob, if you come in a bit closer, there's a detail here that I really want to show, which is the flash tube. So this modifier here is called the Sunlight, and as well as it being astronomically priced at about £1,500, the reason is it comes with its own flash tube and two of these domes. This is the standard white balance dome. It also comes with a frosted one, which I probably won't ever use, but the flash tube is a different shape. It's the same power, it's the same size, but they've changed the footprint of it. So if you look directly at this here, you'll notice you've only got about a 1-inch light source. So it's a point light source. And that is very important in this. We've reduced the size of the normal circular flash tube considerably when this is pointing directly at the subject. This will create much harder light. And because there's no specularity, it'll really shrink it down to that one source point. Now, this has some great benefits. One, I love hard light, as you know, which is obviously why we've gone for this. But two, I can have the light closer and have it being hard still because the source point is so much smaller. The benefit of that is I can get beautiful modelling and sculpting of light on the product whilst having a crisp, sharp shadow, and that's what I've been lacking in certain things so far. Now, I had to build this bit here myself by putting the flash tube in. That was quite scary. You must wear gloves when doing flash tube work because the oils in your skin will make them explode. We've chucked it into this 3200 watt, or joule even, before you all hate me, head, and then we're into a Bronchioscuro pack down here, so let's just quickly knock it on. Pop the modelling light on so you can sort of see what we're getting there. There you go. There's our light source. We've got this to stop the spill, because obviously if we're high up, we don't want it bouncing off the ceiling or anything like that. And there's our light good to go. Now, one thing that we have noticed with some preliminary testing, so if I just fire this, so everyone turn your eyes away, there's a bit of smoke that's coming off it when you fire it at 3200 joules. It's quite, I don't know whether that's a problem with it, whether it shouldn't be fired that hard or not, but we'll worry about that later. Now, to go along with this new broncolor light, we have a new Cambo light boom, which is very useful. We can like rotate it here, and it's on a massive stand, and this just allows us to really crane it in, move it around exactly how we want to, and get those like nice high angles. Pretty useful bit of kit. So what we need to do first of all is angle the light correctly. So I want a bit more of an extreme angle. So just pull this down. Just this, and it's counterbalanced with gym weights, which is useful because I happen to have loads of them kicking around in the studio. There you go, there's a nice hard point source. I think it's angling down, it's quite bright in this room, so it's hard to tell exactly. So let's grab a quick focus check on this. So what I've got here is just a bottle and a very metallic reflective item, just to sort of see what we're looking like here. So let's get our first frame in. That, I mean, we look at these shadows here, they are on the crispy side. That is a very nice sharp shadow. My shot is not in focus at all, which is annoying. Let's chuck something else in there. Let's put something like black in there as well. And again, this is just, you know, just testing, just seeing what it looks like, seeing what the effect is. My main concern is the light will be too dead, which is really not what I want. Let's get a nice focus on here. It's not as smoky as it was earlier, which is always nice. Let's see how we're looking. There we go. Still missed focus, but we're getting there. So we have got beautifully sharp shadows, and we're nowhere near as far as we normally would be. Usually this light would be on the ceiling. So what I want to find out now is, how close can I get while still having sharp shadows? Let's come in like disproportionately close. Probably need to knock the exposure down considerably for this. Let's bang a stop off, shave a bit of light away. That's a bit, oh, but they're still, so we've come much closer in, but these shadows are still very sharp, even though overexposed. So this is interesting. Normally at this distance, they would be incredibly soft. Is that my phone going? So what I'm going to do now is just keep coming in closer and just see how close can we get while still being sharp on the shadows, because this is quite fascinating. And of course, it's very difficult to know this information without having the actual product. Like, you can find bits of information out there on it, but we sort of want to know. There's a very strange shape from the modelling bulb in there, but we'll give that a whirl. Let's turn it down a bit more. We're still at 1600 watts, go down to 800 watts. And of course, because there's no reflector, it's an inefficient modifier. Although that does feel like it just melted the bottle. Yeah, it's a bit hot. We're starting to lose some sharpness, but not fully. Let's go down to 7. When I say sharpness, it's not sharpness of the image, it's sharpness of the shadow. Just have a quick play with these barn doors. It looks brighter here, but I'm not sure if that's the flash tube or the modelling light working its magic. It's very strange. So here is where the modelling light's pointing, and it feels darker than it does here. But I think it's just the way the modelling light's designed, because the flash tube is obviously very different. So let's put the dead spot, there's a dark spot in the centre there. Let's put that in the centre of the frame. That must be the centre of the actual light. I mean, that is still pretty sharp, I think. That's a pretty sharp shadow line there, and we're, what, a metre away? Let's turn the light down another stop, so definitely a bit hot there, and it might be affecting bounce back in the shadow. So what you get sometimes with softer shadows, the light will reflect between the subject and the background and create a fill, and that can soften the shadow a little bit sometimes. So that's normally when you're overexposed. But looking at the edge of this, that is incredibly sharp as a shadow. Yeah, that's brilliant. You can see on the screen here the reflection on this side where the silver's bounced back in again, but the actual shadow itself is pretty darn sharp. So that's really interesting. So that's allowed us to get super close to the subject. We could have a really beautiful modelling and fall-off of light because of how the inverse square law works here. And what I want to try now is just, is there any difference if we close this down really tight? There we go. What's that doing? Is it making any benefit from this particular type of shot, or is that more from a distance to stop ceiling bounce? Eats up a bit of light, but let's compare these two. Let's just zoom in here. That's interesting. So we're getting a lot more reflection when the barn doors are wide open. When they're closed, we're getting an even darker shadow. So that's great to know. I think we just lost a lot of daylight in here because it's just started hammering it down with rain. Having these down here really help create a darker shadow, but we're still sharp from this distance. This obviously wouldn't happen with a reflector, with a bare bulb standard. So this has actually done exactly what I wanted from it. A bit concerned about the smoke coming off at 3200 watts. I'm going to speak to the guys at AJ's and just make sure that's nothing to worry about, and that it's just dust burning, whatever it may be. But that is fascinating. The last thing I want to do is see, does it get any sharper if we're miles away? So if we just come up here, how's that looking, Rob, angle-wise? Am I over the subject?
You're not completely plumb.
Out there, maybe? See what it does. Obviously, we'll turn it up high. Because what's the point? I mean, that's a super sharp shadow from there. Let's go even further. Let's crane it up as well. So we'll just get this. Let's go all the way. Let's get it up to the ceiling. Just see how sharp can we get when we add distance to the matter. I could do with probably a bit more of an angle on it, but I've already hoisted it up too far to fix that. But if we do that, that actually gives a bit more. Oh, we're running out of cable. One of the annoying things about broncolor lights is if you want a cable extension for the head, they cost about £400, which I feel is excessive. Right then, so we're right up there now. That's touching the ceiling. We're going to have full power for this. Question is, can we get an exposure from full power? Might be angled a bit wrong there. See if we get the light actually on the subject. It's quite hard to tell from back here. Is that pointing at it?
I'd say yes, based on how it hit the paper.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, I mean, that is as sharp as it will get as a shadow. We are now underexposed at 3,200 watts. What's that, 4 meters distance from table to ceiling? Obviously, we could go further diagonal. We could get about a 10 meter range usually on these. This at 3,200 watts will not expose that. So there's another head you can get, which is a 6,400 watt head. It has 2 cables that come out of it, and you plug it into 2 separate packs at the same time. That would be what you'd need for this. I don't know whether you'd get this flash tube into that power. It's not a practical thing, but we can get sharp shadows closer. So what are we going to do with this modifier? If we're shooting a single item like this as a hero, we want beautiful sculpted light and super sharp shadows, this is the one. If we're shooting an entire scene like this, we need lots of light and we need it evenly exposed, so a big distance, maybe 8 meters away, this is not the one. For that, we'll carry on using a reflector and a small reflector or a bare bulb, so we can get as much output here as possible. But for sculpting light, this is perfect. Loving the boom arm as well, the Cambo boom arm, really easy to just maneuver and adjust. I don't think it's right for this sort of shot because I can't as easily move the head once it's up there. But I think for my portrait work I'm doing at the moment, where you need to micro adjust it from subject and pose to pose so you can get them just right in between, I think this will be perfect. I also think it'd be great for more lower down lighting or anything where we're shooting multiple products that are slightly different, where you want to micro adjust it, because you can just like move this around really easily and it stays exactly where you put it. So there we go. As the rain comes in, we'll just angle this up nicely there. I think this does what we want it to do. It's great little adjustment here on the boom arm as well, which I'm quite into. So it'll be great for doing like beauty lighting sort of setup. So you want to boom it, adjust it, all the rest of it, and just keep it in place. Great movements on that. I think this is the wrong head for this particular boom arm for what I'm doing. This is going to have my bare bulb lights in it, my soft lighters and all the rest of it. This sunlight here is going to go onto a fine tuning boom arm, I think. And we're probably going to use it on a shoot in the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'd imagine. But in the meantime, I am going to do a test shoot using it just to really work on those hero shots with like lovely sculpted light and really get to know the effect of these barn doors and just sort of understand exactly how to get the best out of it. But this is what we do. This is how we check the kit. For some stuff you want me to check for you, let me know in the comments below and we'll give it a go. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.